all those people that ask us to send them the recording. Okay, so Brooke owns Pink Door Property Management, and she's going to share a lot of information about property management, not just as a property manager, but as a rental owner herself, because she's learned from experience, as many of us have. So we're going to just roll on through. And you know me, I'm Suzanne Moore. I'm a realtor here in Bend, Oregon with Sarah.
Hey guys.
And yeah, this is the Central Oregon Investor Network for those that we haven't seen on these meetups before. And really what we do is we create this community so that we can learn from each other, share resources, and just ultimately help each other and ourselves create more passive income in our lives from our real estate investments. So it can be like Wit and have 12 doors and go mountain biking whenever we want, except when that tenant calls and we don't have a property manager. So that's our goal here, is just to share knowledge about property ownership, real estate investing, and all the aspects that go along with it. So I'm going to hand it over to Brooke to share about herself, and then we'll get into, oh wait, no, sorry, we have to do introductions.
Yeah.
Let's do introductions. I'm going to start with Green Flamingo because you have the most fun name on the screen.
She's done with lunch. Right?
Thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so I must be on my work Gmail account because so my name is Cheryl Wakeford. I've been to one of these meetups before. I own several rental properties. I had a property management company originally for about a year. I did fire them because I didn't think they brought a lot of value. But they weren't very good, right? So I've been managing my own since then. And so I'd love to, I'm kind of to the point I have kids now, and I would like to get a property manager again. So I'd love to hear all the tips and tricks you have about finding a good quality property manager.
And where are you joining us from, in case I missed that?
I am from Austin, Texas, and we're going to spend part-time in Bend, Oregon, working on renovating a house up there. So we can spend more time up there.
Very nice.
So your rentals are in Austin?
Austin and San Antonio.
Excellent. Good deal. Abby, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Yes, thank you for just letting me randomly join. I was referred to you guys by my financial advisor, actually, just to get some more resourcing in the area. I am in Bend. I have 3 properties between Bend and Redmond. I'm currently self-managing all of them, but would just love to expand my network here. I don't really know anybody else who does this either, so just great to make some connections and learn.
Oh, welcome. Who's your financial advisor? Someone here in Bend?
Yeah, Jason. He's at Northwestern Mutual.
Yeah, Jason Ives. Yeah, excellent. He joins us sometimes too. Well, we're glad you're here.
So yes, I was looking for more resources, more folks to kind of join and learn from and just get some advice and everything like that. And he recommended you guys highly.
Wonderful. All right. How about Eric?
Hey guys, let's see. I have one property in Central Oregon, one property in Portland. Yeah, I've been on a few of these meetings with these lovely ladies. Both of the properties are short-term rentals that I do manage myself. Always just willing to learn and network with other professionals in the industry. My 9 to 5, I actually also work in property management. So it's kind of what I breathe for the short-term rental space. So excited to learn from all of you and Brooke as well. And just happy to be here and network with you guys.
Joining Eric. All right, Summer.
Hello, my name is Summer. I'm here in Bend, Oregon. My husband and I have some businesses. We've kind of dabbled in many different areas, but my passion has always been real estate. And so I'm new. I don't have any investments other than my own home. But I just want to learn as much as I can and network and get to know people.
Yes. And what Remind me what your goal was for 2024 summer when we did our.
It's small, but 2 doors.
Hey, I love it.
Yes.
Hope you get there.
Thank you.
And then Holly, you just joined. Holly, welcome.
Holly just finally figured it out.
I'm so glad you got on this time.
It ended up making me use my work login, so I'm a little eek about that. But so am I just introducing myself?
Yes.
I'm Holly Lyons. I'm a newbie, and I don't have any specific number I want. I just want to start ASAP. So thanks to Suzanne, I've gotten in touch with a realtor on the coast, and thanks to him, I've gotten in touch with a lender in the area. So I just keep taking steps forward. I'm ready to burr some properties.
Yeah. And are you in a place where you can share about your future offer of AI marketing? No.
Oh, the AI marketing? No, but that's so exciting. I'll have more about that some time in the future.
All right, we won't
yeah.
put you on the spot. Next,
Yeah.
we'll do a class about AI marketing for real estate investments
Yes.
with Holly. She is ready, but just so many great resources within this group. And I just want to invite everybody to, if whatever you're comfortable sharing, feel free to put in the chat your contact information. You know, this is meant to be a community so that we can connect with each other outside of these meetings. And I know that a lot of meaningful connections have happened, you know, after these meetings and in between months. So feel free to put your phone number, email, social handle, website if you have it, whatever you're comfortable sharing, you know, with other people. So, all right. Did I miss anybody? Whit will come back at some point, but when he's back, he can introduce himself if he wants to. But he's a local property owner here in Bend. He has 12 doors. He's actually kind of on the other end of the investment spectrum as many of us. So he's more in the realm of selling at this point because he's owned his properties for 36 years. So he sold one property earlier this year. We really tried hard to sell that property to one of our clients. And yeah, basically got a ton of knowledge and resources. So that's everybody on the call. Okay, so now it's gonna work. Now I'm gonna hand it over to Brooke, our featured speaker.
Yay! Thank you, Suzanne. Hi, everyone. I'm Brooke Hesseltine. Nice to meet you. This is the most exciting meeting I've been in all week, and I mean that genuinely. I'm here today on behalf of my business that I'm starting. Doors open next month in January, in Pink Door Properties, specializing in residential properties in the Greater Bend area, focused on maximizing long-term property values, enhancing residential relations, and achieving owner objectives. But a little bit more about me. I have a corporate fintech, which is financial technology background. I worked at Intuit for the last 13 years. They're the folks that make TurboTax and QuickBooks. I technically still work there until tomorrow. So I'm gonna buy myself a cookie to celebrate my
Corporate retirement happening tomorrow.
Yay! Thanks, everyone. But I am genuinely very excited about that too. Relocating has been a vehicle to help me and my husband reduce our, active income through passive income, like many of you. It's what attracts many of us to real estate. We have purchased and managed ourselves single-family and multifamily homes for nearly the last 10 years. Now they're currently all here in Bend, and I'm really excited to shift my focus to 100% be steeped in real estate and making sure that not only my portfolio, but also extend my services to other investor-focused folks so they can have a peace of mind that an investor friend is also overseeing their properties. So I'm really excited to learn and continue to grow and meet more great people in the community. And then my intent here today is to give you some insight, some nuggets that I've learned, share with you how to find a property manager that will be a good fit for what you're looking for. So you can be, if you're in a situation where you want to partner with one, some questions to help prompt them and making sure it's a good fit. So please do feel free to interrupt if you have any questions, raise your hand or just say something. I'd love to make this more of a conversation than a presentation. But yeah, so
yeah, and get your stories ready, because one of the things that I think is always interesting is like to hear, the good, bad, and the ugly of property management. And what, Green Flamingo, what's your name, Susan?
Her name is Cheryl.
Oh, Cheryl. Okay. Cheryl, we want to know why you hired and fired your property manager when we get to that section. So get your stories ready. All right. So benefits of having property management.
So there's three main benefits of partnering with a property management firm. Those include peace of mind, saving time, and lower costs. Within peace of mind, obviously that's kind of the number one thing people think about. I don't want a phone call in the middle of the night.
Or when you're trying to go for a mountain bike ride,
yes.
like WIT.
But you have a durable point of contact for your tenants 24/7, somebody that they can reach out to that's not you. You have somebody who is taking point to collect rent and make sure that any late fees are administered if they're needed. They're also marketing your property to tenants that are qualified and would be a good fit, but also ensuring that all the fair housing law regulations are being satisfied and you're covered from a legal perspective there. And then just because, again, they are attracting tenants that are a best fit for your property, they're going to make sure they're finding somebody that's going to be a good long-term tenant that will ultimately decrease your turnover. And as I mentioned before, just the legal side of the house, just having that extra protection and another person in your corner to help make sure that none of those issues arise.
Yeah, and I think just to that point too, like for those of us that self-manage, they're included, like keeping on top of ever-changing landlord-tenant laws in the city, the county, and the state level can be overwhelming. Like, I know enough, but I don't know it all for Oregon, and I don't know about Missouri.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I just issued my first qualifying landlord reason for a tenant termination of their contract too. So like, I wish I would have had someone to like consult with before I did that, but I think I did it right, but that's just, you can potentially get into legal issues if you didn't. So
yeah. And so second here is saving time. Obviously, there's the rental head, just the day-to-day, but really gives you the opportunity by partnering with property management to buy back your own time so you can focus on what you do best and delegate, what they do best, which is looking over your investment asset. And then lowering costs. This is something that maybe doesn't come to mind too often because people think property management, they think they get nickel and dimed, which they may, but you're looking for a fair price for services and you're going to find somebody good because we're going to go over how you do that. But they do have, property managers do have really good networks and they have vendors within their networks. So when you do have a high ticket item that needs replacement, like a roof, for example, they usually get a preferred rate that they can pass along to you, which would be, better estimate than what you would get if you had reached out to them directly. So those can add up. And again, they're going to work with vendors that show up and get the job done on time and are reliable. So you have the confidence knowing that they work with them quite a bit and they've got a good network that they're going to go address the issues and take care of them as quickly as possible with, best pricing. So,
yeah, I would say that's like Sarah and I prepared a home for sale here in Bend, Oregon that was professionally property managed. And that gal did such a good job of getting quotes for paint and carpet. And it was way less than, just like calling someone off of Craigslist or, Angie List even. So our sellers got a really good deal and a good return on investment for putting in the new carpet. Yeah. Okay. What should what should they understand?
They should understand three things. Thank you for asking. What owners want from them, which again is the peace of mind, saving time, saving money. But second, what great tenants are looking for. And they're looking for a nice home in a nice neighborhood with fair rent and a good property manager. They're also looking, if you want somebody to stay for a long time, which you do, they're looking for ample storage and if they're a family with kids and pets, the more storage they have, the more stuff they have, and the less likely they are to leave because it's a pain in the butt to move. So you do want storage on site. And it kind of sounds counterintuitive, but it's a good way to get people to stick. Little tip. Yeah, there we go. Try to give you some nuggets. Third here is again, not only what great tenants are looking for, but what are the top 3 qualities of great tenants? And those are pays their rent on time, they take care of your property, and they're going to stay. And again, ideally forever, but years is what we're looking for.
And one other thing, just in my experience, I think tenants really just knowing that it's like a human on the other end, not just some big mega corporation. It's like, yes, we're people, and just feeling, like they are valued too. Sometimes like around the holidays or around their year anniversary, sometimes I know people give gifts and things like that just to like recognize them. And there's one guy that I know that just like, this goes too far, but he just paid his tenants rent for the month of December.
Like as a Christmas gift?
Yeah, as a Christmas gift. Like, Whit, have you ever done that with your properties? Have you ever done any like gift giving?
I tried it once 20 years ago, but really it comes down to, they'd rather have lower rent and great customer service than gifts.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
I don't.
You? Cheryl?
I would agree with that. I think what they want is like good customer service. They want responsiveness, and then they'll definitely stay longer overall with that rather than a Christmas gift.
Yeah.
I know. I was thinking about sending like a couple of gift cards and just handwritten notes, but I also like to ease my rent up over time too. So
It's a good best practice every year. Raise rent even a little bit because you want to maintain the expectation. Because if you don't raise it one year, the next time it'll sting a little bit, and then get to maintain that relationship and keep it frictionless.
Yeah.
While we're on the subject of rent, could I add a thought here? So I also do the hotline. There's 5 of us that answer the hotline for Cora. I'm one of them. And I've done this successfully for, decades. So I tell people, do not raise rent. Do not go like 5 years without raising the rent and then give them a big rent increase. Increase every renter a little bit every year. People know, I've had some tenants that are somewhat, business naive, and they didn't know my expenses went up every year. So I say, yeah, my property taxes go up every year. My insurance goes up every year, and repairs get more expensive every year. But like last summer, I had a guy. So I have some of the least expensive 1-bedrooms in town. That's because there's no amenities. There's no garbage disposal. There's no washer dryer hookups. There's no garage. It's just a shed. But anyways, the point is, he started at $950. I think he's up to $1050 now, whatever. But I've been increasing everybody in that property by $45 a year for the last 10 years, and no one's left. I mean, I have a property that I have people, here's the 5 numbers of how long they've been there, like 6, 12 or 13, 22, and 27. And so, yeah, serious. And so the 2 compliments I got in the last 2 years was, one guy called me a great property manager because I said, I got to keep you alive. If one of your smoke detectors goes out, you got to let me know. And then the other guy said, this last summer, he says, Whit, I couldn't afford to live in Bend if it wasn't for you. And so those are people that have had a rent increase every year. And it's just, it's so much more important to do a small increase every year than the bigger increases. And I see that because I handle the hotline, and I hear people say, yeah, I gave them a $300 increase, but then they left the next year, So just thought I'd throw that in while we're on it.
I mean, I kind of think about it as like putting a lobster in a cold pot of water and then just like slowly raising the temperature on them, right? As opposed to throwing the lobster in a boiling pot of water, I mean, just like you don't really notice it if you're just sitting in there,
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think that's definitely the best method, just a little bit at a time. And it also helps you keep your property value up too, right? If you don't you don't raise your rent, then when you go to sell it with, it's not, not going to be worth as much because the rents aren't as much,
Right, you're not getting behind.
100%.
Cool. Good discussion.
Any other thoughts before we move on?
Abby, do you do anything special like for your tenants?
I do the gifts. I will say though, all three of mine that I rent to now are like younger couples or a young mom and daughter, and so I think it's a little bit more on the sweet side, if you will, that they really enjoy that. So like I spend like maybe $50 and do like really nice welcome baskets and put like little lists of like my favorite coffee shops and things like that for people when they move in. And then at Christmas, I do like gift cards and a little handwritten note and stuff like that. So nothing crazy, but do add like a little sentimental touch for sure. But they also stay really friendly. Let me know whenever anything happens, everything like that. They've been great tenants. So
Yeah, I did gift cards during COVID just to excuse me, let people know that I cared, and just as like you're here, I don't like everybody paid. Yeah. I didn't have a single person not pay during COVID. And I think a big part of that was just a very, nominal gesture. It was like $75 per door that we gave gift cards, and it made a big difference. So
yeah, I think it's sweet. It's like the human connection, like you were saying earlier. It's like, okay, I'm a person too, and then they kind of know you as a human, so they're hopefully less likely to be a bad tenant as well, because they actually like realize that there's a human on the other side of it too. Pros and cons to that, but it's worked out so far.
good. Great. Thank you for sharing. Okay, here's the top questions. It's not 10.
I tried to make it 10, but I just couldn't,
We have more tips than
a couple
10.
extra. There's a couple bonus questions in there. So again, if you have questions or thoughts, just feel free to chime in. But first, these are in no particular order, but starting here, are you licensed in Oregon? You are required to have a license either as a property manager or a broker in order to do third party management. So just out of the gate, you want to make sure they're licensed. And then on top of that, you want to make sure that they're participating in some of the national associations like NARPM, which is the National Association of Rental Property Managers. And there's also continuing education requirements that they need to participate in. That kind of gets after how they stay abreast of the changing laws and what have you. But that's something I would also be looking at when you're talking to potential property managers. Two, we've got what is your experience and background? It's just a good way to get to know them, understand how their business works, have similar interests and goals, and are they aligned, and just might fill out if this is going to be a good fit. What services do you offer? These can vary. I'm sure many of you know, but you can start short-term rental, mid-term, long-term, home watch. There's a lot of different services out there, especially in these days. So if you have specific needs based on what your portfolio is, you have those in mind and look for property management that can meet those needs. And also, beyond that, maybe you have property in multiple states, multiple areas in Oregon. Maybe you're looking for somebody that can service all of them. They have a network, but just kind of use that as a guide to filter down to find someone who's a good fit.
Yeah, and number 2 could be like, do you own rental properties yourself? So that you know that you're dealing with someone that has been in your shoes at some point. I think is
100%.
I value that.
Biased,
Yeah, I definitely value that. Okay.
So 4, what are your management fees? That's a big one. There's 2 primary ways that property managers get paid, and it's on a monthly basis. And most common is percentage of the rent. That varies between 7 and 12%. And then there's a flat fee model as well. Both of them include some additional fees like re-renting the property and maintenance things to address. But when you're looking at property management companies online, it's less common to find their rates on their website. So just to warn you, you do call them, and they typically want to talk to you and understand what your property is. Is it single family, multifamily, what the address is, so they can look it up. If they anticipate it being a property that's pretty, could be low maintenance for them, basically, it'll be, on the lower end of the percentage. If it's something that they anticipate getting multiple calls and a little more hands-on, then they'll probably be on the higher end. But just that was something that stood out to me at first. It's like, why aren't the prices on the website? It's like, I didn't get a call. So
do you generally do you find that property management companies give a discount if you own more doors?
I do.
Yeah.
I think they
Okay.
could. I'm
Yeah.
sure they do. So ask.
Volume discount?
Yeah, because you get a volume discount. You it's like one point of contact and multiple doors. Let's do it. I think that's good business. But yeah, that's worth it.
That's for sure.
How do you determine rent? So this one seems pretty obvious, but you want to make sure they're running some comps. But the comps are also, should include, comparable properties with to yours in the local area, but it should also include the amenities. So let's say there's a new school being built in the neighborhood and it's going to attract families, or new park. Also, we know the number one rule in real estate is location, location, location. So if it's on a busy street, but it's a gorgeous home and the front door just walks right into there, so that's got to be taken into account too. So just make sure that they're, I recommend doing your own research, getting in your head an idea of what you think it's going to rent for. And if they come up with a number that's, it should be in the ballpark, right? You want to make sure you're getting something that you also think makes sense. 6, what methods do you use to market properties? A proactive marketing strategy. What does that mean? It was what I saw online and I thought I'd use it. But I think, proactive to me, I'll define it myself, is just taking advantage of all of the ways to market something. And so that at minimum should include all of the various websites you can post on, Zillow.com, apartments.com. Many of them are free. Many of them also offer for a nominal fee, you can upgrade to get a higher placement on their website. There's also things like Facebook Marketplace. I see properties posted on there a lot, Nextdoor. So the more that the property management company says that they, these are all the places we post, the better. And then also, pro tip, don't underestimate a for rent sign in the yard. Those are not obsolete. I would have a bias for properties for rent sign that is not from, Home Depot, the black and white standard, the red and white standard one that we think of, but, a branded one, a nice one. And the reason for that is it's going to tell the neighbors that aren't necessarily on those websites that a home in their neighborhood is for rent, and they have a friend that they want to live next to, and that friend is probably going to stay a little longer than a complete stranger. So it's a good way to get referrals from other people that already live in the neighborhood that are good tenants, good neighbors.
That's something I've never done. And I think that's a great tip of of course, your neighbors are invested in wanting someone good there. So how else would they know about it, if they're not currently looking for rentals? So I think that's a good spot. And as far as comps, what resources do you recommend for people to find their own comps so that they have an idea as well?
That's a good question. So, and just to clarify, you're not responsible for getting the comps, the property management kit, but if you feel like you have the skill set and desire to go kind of get your idea of what you're looking for them to come back with to kind of get checked, you can go on Zillow or Redfin, any of the websites that have, rental listings, apartments.com, just you can do looking for an exact match of bedrooms, square footage, baths, amenities, and just kind of get a sense for what the going rate is in that neighborhood at that point in time. In the winter months, less people, or right before the fall when school starts, people move more. So rents could, kind of hit a little bump in what they're going for. But yeah, just go to the general website.
And I think that's a good point. Just like the time of year that one is listing as well, just like selling a property, right? Probably actually really matters when it comes to how you're pricing something for rent as well, in terms of how many people are looking.
And Eric put in the chat rentometer or rentometer. I've used that before. I think you can use it one time free and then you gotta pay. Is that right, Eric?
Yeah, I think you can use it up to 5 times maybe, but I also think the Bigger Pockets website has integrated with it. So that one I know you can use for free. And you just put in the bedroom, bathroom count, and it'll give you probably 15 to 20 local comps. And I think it even says it's confidence level. You can click into those comps. So if you just want a vague assessment, I would probably also check with the property manager to compare those comps. But if you want to have those in your back pocket even before you ask them, that's probably a good idea. See how they line up.
So I just don't know, because we are pro members on Bigger Pockets. If you're not a pro member, is it still free to get rental comps?
Yeah, I think it is as well. I'm a pro member too, so I guess I can't speak to it anymore. But I think before I was, you could still maybe do 5 to 10. You could do short-term rental projections and long-term as well. Like you can specify what you're looking to do. But I think they have both calculators there available if you're not a pro member.
Yeah, I'm not a pro member. I used it a few times for free.
Mhm.
So at least a couple can use it for free because I don't have the membership.
And then like if you have STRs, you know, and you are just trying to get an idea, or if you're looking at short-term rentals, you can also use the functionality within Bigger Pockets to get a ballpark number from AirDNA for free.
Yeah. Yes, you don't have to sell your kidney for an AirDNA membership. Yeah.
Exactly.
You need those.
I know. Yeah. Okay, good. So great resource for people that are looking to, you know, like gut check those comps, whether you're using a property manager or not. I think it's important to know what you think your property is worth, so that you can have an informed conversation with a property manager and at least know why you think maybe it should rent for more.
100%. I'm going to pile on to number 6.
Oh,
okay. No, it's okay.
You went back down.
Oh,
It's okay. Just
wait, what did I?
Oh,
Am I going the wrong way?
You might
It's okay.
be like, yeah.
When you're talking to prospective property managers, ask them if they are in the practice of introducing themselves to the neighbors. That might be something that they offer, and I think it would be a big plus because just showing that, you know, the property manager has their number. The neighbors, you know, if anything, or like loud noises or something weird happens, we haven't seen them. We were used to seeing them come in and out. Maybe they're out of town, but just it's a good practice. Only good things can come from that. So I would recommend asking them if they do that, and if they don't, could they?
Yeah, that's a good one. Number 7. How do you screen?
Sorry,
Yeah.
can I ask a question? Is that more so to like keep an eye on your tenants kind of for you then? Is that the purpose of doing that, so that the neighbors can kind of keep an eye out on everything?
They also feel like, oh, I have, you know, I own my home, there's a renter moving in. And sometimes they think, oh, there's a renter moving in. You're like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm Brooke, property manager. Here's my number. Call me if anything happens. And they go, oh, okay. Like, it's nice to meet you. And they, you know, think, oh, and by the way, and then they text you, Amy's really great. It's like, cool, I'm so happy. You know,
Yeah.
let me know if anything weird happens. But yeah, so I think it's more helping, just communication, keeping the communication open.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah, Eric.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but also like a secondary reason for that. Like I know a lot of neighborhoods and HOAs, like they just have a bad taste in their mouth when a new rental enters the pool because they just assume it's going to be some, you know, punk kids who throw parties all the time, whether it's a short-term rental or long-term. But on the other side, you know, that can benefit the property manager for future referrals, but also ask your property management company if they do homeowner referrals as well. You know, because sometimes that neighbor can see that you did a really good job screening your tenant, your property manager handles things appropriately, and maybe they buy properties in the future and might want to hire your property manager as well. And sometimes they pay it forward for building that relationship too. So usually it can be a symbiotic relationship with that, with bringing your neighbors into the fold with what you're doing.
That's a great point. Okay, cool. All right, number 7. How do you screen prospective tenants? And this is a big one because it can vary. It could be the bare minimum, and then there's, you know, to the nth degree. I'm giving you extra on the next slide. But starting with the credit report and background check, those are pretty boilerplate. I recommend looking for management that that's going to live in the home. Next is landlord references for the last 5 years. If they don't have them because they just sold their primary residence and they're renting for the first time, ask for at least 2 personal references. With the landlord references, we've got the pro tip here of prioritizing. Obviously, you want to speak to, you know, call them, but their immediate landlord, the one they currently have, may have a motive to tell you they're great because they don't want to manage them anymore. So definitely talk to the one they lived, the one before them, because they'll more likely be a little more honest.
Yes. Yeah. So good.
Verify employment. So in today's day and age, technology and all the things, the work number, it's hard to get a hold of people's employer to get their employment verification. They'll provide pay stubs, ask for the bank statements that support those pay stubs, so you can compare and make sure they were deposited, because you just to make sure nothing's being fabricated there. If you are able to, do everything you can to actually talk to somebody. If you're able to talk to their manager, ask them to verify how long they've worked there and how much they get paid, because a friend wouldn't know those answers. And then meet every member of the family, including the kiddos, and ask them how many pets they have, what pets, because they won't forget, and the parents might forget on the application to list all of the pets.
That's a nice word.
And then I'd recommend using a pet screening service. I use petscreening.com. I like it a lot. It allows the tenant pays for it. It's about $30, but they upload pictures of their pet, their vaccine records, and then also any temperament. And it also follows the pet. And when they move to the next property, when pet screening will provide their previous pet records per se. So it's kind of nice.
That is something I've never done.
Yeah.
I never even knew it was an option to do pet screening. But it's, every owner is gonna be like, oh, my pet is so well behaved,
Yeah.
it's very well trained, never barks, never blah blah. Like, I've never had someone say I have a really troublesome pet.
And they won't.
Yeah, wait. Oh, you're on mute. There you go.
Yeah, so the only thing is about using the service is I still like to meet the pets in person, especially dogs. I mean, actually, I don't take pets anymore. I did when I did houses, but I like to see them under voice command. And so I think it's like person to person. Nothing replaces the in-person connection.
Yes,
Very good
absolutely.
point.
Like
Yeah.
meeting pets too, but just also to kind of double down on, hey, processes, like we've got everything is documented, and there's a process for onboarding the pet. So just to send the message to the tenant that we take this seriously. We're doing all the things we can to make sure that we're just kind of accounting for the pet, tracking the pet, all the things. It's like we expect you to be a responsible owner, right? Pet parent, rather. We have one more button
sorry.
on there. It's okay.
Wait. Oh, do I
It's
keep
okay.
going
Yeah.
the wrong way? Wait, I can do this. 8. Come on, sorry. There we go.
Oh, yeah,
Am I there?
that's a good one. I'm glad. Yeah.
Okay.
And when possible, take note of the condition of their car. And if you can drive by their current address, do that. But that isn't the condition of their vehicle, how they keep it is an indication of how they will be caring for your home. And so you can have them sign, their life away, they're going to take care of things, but if they're not in the habit of being, taking good care of their property, then it's not likely that they're going to be good stewards of yours. So something to do for due diligence purposes.
That's a good one. Okay, now we're there.
had a banker tell me that one time when I first started doing this. It was this sweet little old man banker, and he was like, look and see if they have garbage in their car, like garbage on the floor of their car and stuff like that. He was like, if you have somebody that's going to do that, that's exactly what they're going to do to your property. And it was the weirdest plus best advice I ever got. I denied 3 people because of that, because their car was filthy.
But yeah, that was good advice. I'm glad you met him. Cool. So 8 here, we've got how do you collect the rent from tenants? These days, especially with property management software, online rent is pretty common. And if you use property management service, it's more likely that's what you're going to get. Mailing checks and things like that or picking them up is not the norm these days. The nice thing about it is they do ACH transfers, they can set up auto pay, and then it also automatically applies any late fees if they happen to be late. And so that also saves some overhead time for the property management company. So they can just kind of pass that service on to you. So it could be just a good streamlining way of collecting and paying rent. 9, how is the maintenance handled? This is just a good question. It's kind of the getting to know them. What's your experience? This one runs the gamut. Some property management companies, larger ones, have in-house maintenance. So that's cool. They can deploy their team same day, or they've got their, and they've got control of their workers. Otherwise, they outsource. They have, their preferred vendors that they work with. And then I think just to think of it as a golden rule, what would you hope to have if you were the tenant? What are you looking for? We don't want to ideally to say, you know, we need the property manager. I run out there and I fix the toilet, I pop the toilet myself. Like that's probably, I don't know. Probably like handyman. We got a really good handyman. He does we all love him. Everybody loves him. But yeah, just consider how you would want maintenance to be handled and that. How about late fees and other ancillary fees collected from tenants?
Okay, I think this is a great question, Cheryl, because this was my question when I hired and fired my property manager. Like, I was so annoyed because they were charging the tenants all these fees and then keeping the money that was my property. So
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
Yeah, it's a good question to ask. I think it was coming to
Oh, is it?
But yeah, ask them how they administer their fees and how that what their process and protocol is.
So there's different ways that it can be done. Is that what you're
This is
saying?
for your part at the end where we're like, yeah, you can negotiate or talk to,
Oh.
ask for what you want. We're
Yeah.
getting
So Cheryl, did you have an experience that you didn't like about?
I was surprised that all the late fees were kept by the property management company, because that's a delay getting to my bank account, right? And I have to pay for the mortgage and the taxes, and so that was surprising to me. And then things are very regional, right? So I was wondering if that's how it is everywhere or just here.
Yeah, I experienced that in Oregon as well, and it was very frustrating because I felt the same way. I was like, why do you keep the late fee if the money's late getting to me?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So
I think that so to answer the question, I would ask it's great, just proactive, have this your questions to ask prospective property manager and see how they handle it. And if the answer isn't something that you were hoping for, ask them if they'd consider changing that policy for you.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about
Yeah,
that.
that's a good point. Everything's negotiable, right? So as well as like multiple properties, like a lot of people say, well, if you have 3 or more properties, they'll give you a discount, but you can ask for that discount for 2, or you can ask for it for 1 or whatever. It's all negotiable.
I think that's probably the benefit of working with someone who's a little bit more boutique, a little bit smaller too, right? Is because you can have these conversations. Maybe their rules and policies aren't quite as cut and dry or black and white, and they have the time and energy to work with you for what's going to actually work for your scenario. And like that's what would interest me about a property manager, is having someone who's a little bit more flexible. But
Yeah.
I mean, understandably so, if someone doesn't want to be flexible, but that means that it's just not for me. So.
Mhm.
Tailored services.
Great question, Cheryl. Thank you for asking that.
Okay, so 10, what's your cancellation policy? And this is specifically between you as the owner and the property management company. So obviously coming to contracts, details matter a lot. So read the fine print, definitely pay attention to what is in that cancellation policy. You don't want to get yourself committed to, buying yourself out because you committed to multiple years. And if you're not happy, you're not happy and it's time to go. So look for guarantees or policies that are less restrictive. And again, on the heels of our last comment, if it's not something you're comfortable with, ask them if they'll adjust. Do you offer any guarantees? So I'm not going to define all of these for you, but there are guarantees. They might not be called a guarantee, but just essentially are for tenants, or excuse me, for property owners. And so the satisfaction guarantee, I'll just kind of define 2 of them, the ones that I have the asterisks on, as an example. And these are real people, property management companies do offer these. So in this case, we stand behind our services with 100% satisfaction guarantee. If for any reason you're not completely satisfied with our services, you can cancel our agreement at any time without penalty. That sounds like a good one. And then the 30-day lease guarantee is if we're unable to lease your property in 30 days or less, we will waive the first 2 months of management fees. So these type of guarantees are just kind of cherry on the top to help you feel confident that you've got a good partner looking after your investment.
Yeah. I have never, I don't know. I used like a big corporate company in Portland for mine that I subsequently fired, but I didn't even know guarantees were a thing. So this is great to know.
Yeah. You're good. Ask for metrics. Metrics could be KPIs or stats. They might call them something different, but in today's day and age with the data. People like data. It helps them make decisions, helps them track their just progress and how effective how their property or their company is running. So some examples here. I've got the next slide as well, but contact to response time. And this is people, the shorter the better. Obviously, ideally, you're looking for something that's less than 24 business hours. Time to repair, and that's resolution. Somebody reaches out, says, I've got, a leak under my faucet, 3 to 5 business days. So within a week, right? Approximately, get that fixed. That's a good target. What percentage of rents do you collect per month? You're looking for nearly 100%. Anything less might raise some flags. Go to the next slide, please.
Sorry,
No,
multitasking.
On average, what's your occupancy length for tenants? If it's less than a year, you're losing money effectively because of the city cost. So you're looking for something north of 2 years. 5 is stellar. Keep going.
27 is amazing.
Yeah, 27 is great. Better than stellar. What's your lease renewal rate? Anything greater than 80% is considered great. What percentage?
Sorry, just to define that means like current tenant there is renewing for another year.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And then what percentage of your rentals are usually vacant? Less than 5%. What you're looking for. How long are your properties typically vacant? And so that going on the heels of that 30-day lease guarantee, you're looking somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks target vacancy. Usually you get 60-day notice, so you have some time. You've got 60 days someone's moving out. That gives you time to kind of go through and then go to an inspection, get your list of what you're going to do once they move out, and then within 2 to 4 weeks you should have it turned over and ready for the next tenant. And then what's your eviction rate? A low eviction rate is a good sign. But on the other hand, a high eviction rate indicates the manager is doing a poor job regarding tenant selection. So just another thing to be mindful of. And these are your bonus questions. Continue, we're almost in. Could you share references I can speak to? And in the world we live in today, we go online, we go on Google, we look for stars and reviews and Yelp, what have you. But ask them if you can talk to some people they work with, either clients or their vendors and partners within the network. It'll just boost your confidence that you're making the right decision. And then can you share some examples of documents? I think this is key, especially if you're new to working with a property manager, just to set your expectations of like, what's going to happen? And so maybe they have kind of a workflow outline for you. So this is the sequence of events and what triggers when these things happen. We do a lease renewal, here's what happens, but samples of here's what a lease looks like, application, here's the financial report you're going to get at the end of the year for taxes, things like that, just to, again, get you familiar with what to expect. And then lastly here, how do you keep up with the continually changing landlord-tenant laws? And so kind of going back full circle here, the national and local association memberships, and mentioned NARPM, and then there's the continuing education requirement for both property managers and brokers that are licensed to keep up their hours to stay abreast of all of these things. So yeah, those are the 15 questions to help you pick the best person to partner with.
I definitely feel like that covers it, and certainly brings up questions that I wish I had asked when I was looking for property management back in the
Thanks
day.
for help. I hope we got at least one nugget out of there.
Yeah, some great pro tips. Okay, so let's talk about alternative approaches to property management, because I think many of us, when we think property management, it's like, oh, I hire a company and they do it all. But there are alternatives. Do you want me to talk about how I do it, or do you have some ideas? Or
we're just like the ADU example where I live in a property and I have an ADU and I'd like to be the on-site property manager, but I'm not fully confident and I've got to know the landlord-tenant laws. So I'd really like to partner with someone just to do the recruit and the getting the lease prepared, and then once we identify a good tenant, they can sign the lease directly and rent gets paid directly to the landlord. And then fast forward, years down the road when that tenant wants to move out, you can reach out to the property management company again, and they can help with the offboarding because they did the move-in inspection report. They can do the move out and then get them their deposit back in their timely manner. according to the rules.
So it's just like more piecemeal approach,
Yeah,
right?
more
And
of a
like again,
piecemeal.
like I think that's, I mean, for all us that are a little bit more type A, a little bit more control over what they're, like that's super helpful.
Yeah.
Just like have someone that's workable in that way, as opposed to like just this blanket approach that
Yeah.
I'll like Suzanne, I think, and I feel the same way, that we want to collect our own rent checks, we don't want our money going somewhere else and then coming to us first,
Yeah.
which
And
is
that's
really
another
important.
example.
But it might be
Yeah.
helpful to have someone to like fill the vacancy, right? Because we've got other things to do,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, and the screening, I think, is a big one for many people that just don't have time or interest in knowing the details of all of the landlord-tenant laws.
or a safe eviction process, whatever
Yeah.
it is,
Yeah. Abby, did you have a comment that you wanted to add?
I was just going to ask a question actually, because I know that you had mentioned previously that obviously property management costs are per monthly and they're a percentage or a flat fee. How does something like that go about in terms of like a la carte kind of service when you're just doing that for getting a tenant in that type of situation, since it's not a monthly fee, I would imagine?
It's a different product, basically. It's like
Mhm.
offering monthly management fees, or doing the a la carte approach. I have it separated. So you could just do, again, if you're looking for only the onboarding or offboarding, it's a fee, like a one-time fee both times. Yeah. Nothing monthly.
yeah, I mean, in my experience, I have a different experience, but typically it's like 1 month's worth of rent is, at least when you're doing the full-time thing, maybe it's a little bit more if it's just that once, but equivalent to
Yeah.
to get someone in.
Yeah, like the placement fee. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. So is there a name for that? What is that
It could be
called?
called, it has different names, but a lease up is one common name for it.
Okay.
Maybe like a placement, maybe like
Mhm.
a la carte, as Abby said. Kind of have to define it to figure it doesn't have a one.
Yeah.
This is what it's called.
Right. Okay. So,
If I learned about it, I'll let you know. But
Okay.
So far, yeah.
but Lisa is,
Lisa.
yeah, that would be the name for that particular process. Or like, Abby, if your thing was like, I just don't like posting my rental, like I don't like being on Craigslist and Facebook and wherever, like, maybe just asking somebody to do the marketing of the property and like the responses, and maybe you still want to screen. So I think there's different aspects. And I think like having managed your properties yourself, oftentimes we know what we like doing and what we don't like doing. And so then I think that's when we can take that list of don't like doing to a property manager and say, okay, this is where I really need help, but I would still like to, be in control of this piece or whatever. So there's certainly options.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can imagine maybe privacy too, because then it's not like you're posting on your Facebook that you have a rental up, right? It's then coming from the property management company too. So a little bit more safety there as well.
That's
a good
totally
point.
true.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then Sarah touched on it a little bit. I'll just tell you a bit about my approach with I do have a property manager for my Portland properties because I live here now. I didn't like when I had my corporate property management company that they got all the money. They decided which pieces they were going to keep, all my fees and then like the late fees and pet fees and whatever, and then their fee. And then I would just get whatever they thought I deserved at the end of the month. And I hated that because I felt like I had to fight with them every month for those fees because we had different ideas of who should get them. So when I fired them and ended up hiring this property manager that I have now, I said, I'll pay you a flat fee. Here's the fee, but I still want to collect rents. And she was like, great. That takes half of my job or more than half of my job off the plate. And so this is way easier. So I just have mine set up through apartments.com, which is kind of medium what I had done before. So all the money comes to me and then I just pay my property manager every single month. I pay her the flat fee, whether she's doing a ton of work for me and taking maintenance calls, or if she's just like chilling at Lake Havasu, drinking cocktails. Like she makes the same amount of money and it's great. And then I love the marketing because that's just my thing. So I always post my rentals on Craigslist. I had never done Facebook Marketplace, but like Furnish Finder or wherever. And then Once they inquire, then it goes to my property manager, and she does, like, she's actually on the Zillow. Like when I post on Zillow, it goes to her inbox. So she does everything from there on. So that's just how we've managed it, so that it's cost effective for me. She makes a good amount of money every month, no matter what, and everybody's happy.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Benefits of knowing what you like and what you want.
Right.
And ask for it.
And that's the one thing, like, that's why I oftentimes, when we have new investors that we're working with that buy their first property, I do often recommend self-managing when you first start, so that you know what you like doing, what you don't like doing, and why it might be worthwhile to pay somebody to
The
do
true
those
value
things.
of what people are going through.
Exactly. Yeah. Cheryl?
Oh, you're muted. Oh, hold on. Wait.
Okay, sorry. Can you hear me now? Okay, great. So I'll just add to that my experience. So I found, I did a lot of research, found a great property management company online because I was really scared to do my own management. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, good. So I had these guys for a year. They got rave reviews on Google, but they took a lot of the fees, right? They were very corporate, and they had this thing written up in their contract that they were due the last month's rent for any tenant that they found. And so like it ended up, they took the whole last month's rent. It was kind of I probably could have taken them to court on it. It was like, the wording was a little dubious, but they just keep all your money in a deposit, right? So they just took that on the back end. They also had kind of almost like a non-disclosure in their paragraph in their lease contract, to where like if you said anything bad about the company, then they could like basically do whatever, right? Like bring charges against you. And that's why their Google review was so good. So it was to that taste my mouth all the way through. And so I did, and they did charge a lot for certain repairs. But ultimately I fired them. And so like, I did it myself, and I have a lot of confidence now in what to look for, because I have a few good men. I have a good air conditioning person, which is important down here. I have an amazing plumber and a great electrician. And so I have just a nice stable of people, and I do manage things from out of town. And overall, it's been a really good experience. But things inevitably happen when you're going out of the country or going on vacation. Like it's a very worst possible time you're dealing with tenants. So it's pros and cons. So it's whatever, what do you have more time or money, or, what's most important to you, basically.
Yes. Wow, that's really interesting about that non-disclosure thing. Yeah, there's certainly, I'm sure there's like rental associations or even Better Business Bureau or somewhere that you could potentially raise a complaint, but it sounds like you can't do it publicly, which is interesting. Yeah. And
so I thought of doing a lot of things. I thought about posting anonymously, but ultimately I didn't want to waste time on it, because you want to be working on your business, not in your business. So like I do flips, I do new construction, I do other things. So I don't want to waste time. I try to have to pick what I can use all my time and energy on. So I kind of just left it. But it has made me hesitate to, get another property management company. But these questions have been really great. It's probably a lot better to kind of guide me to find a better company next time.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Bye, Eric. Great having you. And Abby, we'll see you next time. All right, Whit, looks like you had your hand raised. Oh, you're muted.
Oh,
wait,
hold
you're
on.
still
Wait.
muted.
Oh no, Whit. Hold on.
We're gonna unmute.
Hold on, wait.
Thank you. There we go.
I just want to remind you, excuse me, for those of you that do long-term rentals, in case you're not already a member, Central Oregon Rental Owners Association, and we have a helpline that we have 5 people that answer the phone, and we're glad to help. And you'd be surprised at how many property managers call our line. So if you're not a member, please join, and you can get questions answered for free, including how to fill out forms, what form to use, how to solve problems. It's really a great resource.
I'm gonna put the link in the chat. I am a member of this, actually. How much is it? What I paid like $195.
Yeah, so it depends on how many units you have. So people with one unit might be like 75, and if you have a lot of units, it might be 150 or 200. So somewhere in that range.
I don't know. Is it, I can't remember if it's lifetime membership or is it annual?
Oh, that's annual. But remember, it's a tax deduction, but it's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, I mean, they sent me this thick booklet and then they sent me a 27-page addendum electronically for all the stuff that had changed, you know, just in this. Well, yeah, I mean, they print it every year.
Oh, that's great.
So, yeah, I haven't used that membership to its fullest for sure. And they send out a lot of interesting news. That's actually where I learned about the rural ADU law change here in Central Oregon, which I'm gonna we'll do a video about that. But they, yeah, I just appreciate the resources that they share. So Cheryl, maybe there's something like that for you in Austin that you can look up. I mean, I know so many places have these landlord groups, so we can learn from each other. Yeah, what did you want to say?
So this is an add-on to alternative approaches, and maybe you're still going to get to it, but I thought I'd throw it on there. There's a company called Rental Riff in Bend. Guys, the owner is Phil, and what his company does is he handles all repairs. So if you still want to manage your property, and I figured it out based on my rentals, it's about 3.5% of your gross rents. And that's still cheaper than the 8% that a typical property manager would charge. So it reduces your workload. I like doing everything myself, except when it's inconvenient. But he's got a very professional company. His company has expanded already to like Seattle, Portland, Bend, and Denver. But anyways, it seems to be a very professional company, but it's such a great alternative to not doing the whole thing yourself.
That's fabulous. I just put that in the chat as well for people. Thanks, Whit.
Love it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we kind of talked about the good, bad, and the ugly and the alternative approaches. I mean, those are the things that I know of really. It's just where you can figure out that those a la carte services that you want and talking to a property manager who's willing to get creative, you know, that doesn't just have their boilerplate, I only do this if you don't want that. You know, and there are certainly companies that do that, and that's fine. But if you can find somebody that's willing to take on the pieces that don't work for you, I think that's very valuable. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I know we're over time, as usual, but I put Brooke's contact in the chat as well, so you have it there. It is also here. If you want to screenshot this, you're welcome to. She's a wealth of information, as you see. And yeah, I just appreciate everybody's interaction today. It's always, this is so fun because we learn from each other, and I love when we can share resources and get smarter together.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, and thanks for being awesome people to hang out with the lunch on this lunch hour. You know? Yeah. It's fun.
Thanks, guys. Good to see everyone.
Yes. All right. Well, we'll see you all in the new year. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season and a happy new year.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
You want to copy and paste all that?
It comes through.
It comes through. Okay, cool. That way we can add that to maybe like speechless.